Greetings and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. My name is Paula. This is episode 3 in my Wicca 101 class. And this session is on the divine, the god and the goddess. First, I want to speak about the goddess. We think of her as the Great Mother. She is the womb where life begins and where it returns. She is all around us. She is within us, and we are a part of her. But she's not just Mother Earth in its nourishing, fertile kind of aspect that you typically think of with pagan earth religions, and your normal thought of how the goddess is. She's also a destructive power. Sometimes you have to, in forestry, let the fires grow and take stuff down for the new growth to come behind. She's tidal waves, she's volcanoes, she's earthquakes, and she is also the one part of the divine that she as the god is always with us as we walk our spiritual paths. Now, most people who are familiar with Wicca at all think of her in only 3 aspects: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And these are the 3 that most witches or Wiccans work with. And she's not just that. We're going to get into that a little bit more. There are actually 6 archetypes to the goddess. And when we think about the maiden, now think that the goddess rules the night, okay? And then the counterpart, the god, rules the day. So, the goddess is associated with moon cycles and lunar cycles, while the god is, the solar year, okay? Now, the moon takes, a month to make its circuit, right? And go through the different stages of the moon, from, new moon through full moon to dark new moon and back to new moon. And then, the wheel of the year, the sun, it takes the earth a year to get around the sun, right? So think of the god as the day and the goddess ruling the night, okay? And in the 3 main archetypes of the goddess, the first one I'm going to talk about is the maiden. And I found myself, when I was studying, this was the goddess that I had the hardest time really working with and embracing, because I came to Wicca in a later stage in my life, and I was, 40 years old, I think. Sorry, dogs. I was far past that maiden phase of my life. I was well into my adult years, well into my years as a mother, and was entering into the later or crone phase of my life. So, the maiden, think of her as being virginal, belonging to no one. She's still pure, okay? And she is all about new beginnings and hope and freedom and pure innocence and pure independence, okay? Think of the maiden as being belonging or being beholden to no one. Now, that means when she belongs to no one and she's beholden to no one, she's self-reliant, and she's on the verge of womanhood. She hasn't got there yet. And you can think about maidens. Maidens teach us to be spontaneous and to be true to our inner selves, okay? The maiden encourages you to let go and lose control and be silly, and to revel in joy and happiness. And, you know, if you want to go out and run in the rain, then go and do it. Embrace those kinds of activities and embrace that phase of the maiden, because it's all about new beginnings and the hope of things to come. Okay. Then the next, and let me give you like a couple of, like the one that I come up with, the goddess I come up with very easily off the top of my head is the Greek goddess Artemis. Now, she is representative of the moon, the hunt, and women, and her symbols are moonstone, as animals, and jasmine flowers. Now, when you think about that, you know, you think about, you know, as you hear my dog, you know, you see his tail wagging over here, and you hear my dog kind of acting up in the background and stuff. You know, you think about animals and the way that they can frolic. You see squirrels scurrying around, you know, in the trees and playing. Think of that kind of joy when you think of the maiden. Okay, and that's one, Artemis is one of many maiden goddesses that can encourage you to do that kind of things. Now, if you look in your handouts, the link is in the description box to the Google document. And there are also a couple of other ones there, but you can do some research on your own and find additional goddesses that are maiden goddesses. Okay. Now, the next phase, think of this as the mother. Okay. She's come into womanhood. You know, she's ready to bear children. She has children. She's raising children. She is the caretaker of the hearth and the home, and, you know, nourishing infants and bringing them to adulthood. Okay. So the mother goddess is all about fertility and power. But she's also about transformation. In other words, transforming from the maiden into a mother. She is about justice and fairness. And she also, and people find this part hard to embrace, she encourages you to embrace your sexuality, take pride in your bodies in whatever shape it's in. You don't have to be a size 2, okay? You can be like me. You can be a size 16, loud and proud and out there. And, you know, and the typical, you know, images of the mother goddess, you think of her with swollen breasts and a big rounded belly from pregnancy, things like that. She is literally the womb from which we are born and where we will eventually return when we're reincarnated. Okay? They give life, but they can take life as well. There are some mother goddesses teach us to take care of our families and take care of ourselves. Okay? She's also part of our intuition, to listen to our inner voice. And then she also encourages you while you are in, you know, the mothering phase of your life. You typically make a whole lot of sacrifices. You do everything, or try to do everything, for your kids. And you make a lot of sacrifices, you know, as a parent, as a mother. And in that, a lot of times women lose themselves in their children, and they lose their identities. You know, so she reminds you to do something just for yourself. You have to remember, for you to be a good caretaker, you must take care of yourself once in a while. Okay. And that means, you know, also taking care of your relationships with your consort, you know, be it male, female. You have to take care of one another. Okay. Now, one of the first ones you think of when you think of like the mother goddess or the mother earth is Gaia. Okay. She was a Greek goddess, and she represents the earth, abundance, providence, being thankful, nature itself, divination, and the promise of things to come. Okay. Her symbols are harvested food and fertile soil. Okay. So one of the phases of the goddess that a lot of people have a hard time embracing is the crone. Now, the crone is old age and experience. It's the phase of my life that I'm in now. I am, postmenopausal. Thank you, geez. And I have done my family raising. I have done, my thing, taking care of my man. I have had a lot of life behind me, a lot of life experience behind me. And she is also, the crone is the gateway to death. Okay. But she is also the guide that brings us back for rebirth. So she's like, think of this as like, the grandmother. Okay. She connects us to our inner selves. Okay. I have a lot more time now in my life to reflect on me and work on my inner self than I ever did when I was taking care of, 2 stepsons, okay, as a mother. And in this part of my life, I don't like a lot of strife. I don't like a lot of, she encourages us to bring harmony and balance to our lives, to not leave any phase out, to pay close attention to each part of our life, and to look and do a lot of introspection and have a hard look at ourselves. And that is one of the beautiful thing is the crone encourages you while you're taking stock to not be afraid to change who you are as a person. Okay. So she is, encouraging of transformation. And, embrace that change and transformation with every bit of your being. So many women, when they get into menopause, go, oh, woe is me. I'm no longer a real woman. Or if they, have to have a hysterectomy early and, can no longer bear children or get sick and have to have mastectomies done. They lose their breasts. They lose the ability to feed a child. The crone embraces you in those kinds of situations and encourages you to take care of you and embrace the transformation. She's not to be feared, okay? And, death is a part of life. So that there is rebirth after death, okay? She's here for us to learn the lessons we need to learn, okay? Now, one of my favorite crone goddesses to work with is Cauldron, okay? She is Celtic, from the Celtic pantheon, and she represents death, regeneration, inspiration, magic itself. Cauldron's Cauldron, she is the inspiration for this channel's name, because Cauldron's Cauldron was the source of knowledge and the mystery and magic, okay? She's also about astrology and herbs and science and poetry and spells and knowledge itself. The Cauldron, okay, is her symbol. Like I said, she's the inspiration for this channel. And in general, the goddess archetype, the goddess, the feminine part of the divine, teaches us about our internal mysteries and about femininity itself. Now, for women, these mysteries are, growing life, giving birth, sustaining that life, and embracing intuition. They call it women's intuition. That's what the goddess tells you to embrace and to nurture that. Now for men also can embrace the goddess, and she teaches them to embrace their tender and nurturing side, strength through compassion and emotions. So many men want to bury their emotions and remain stoic and all stern and everything. And often, the if you cry, it doesn't mean that you're weak. Remember that. And embrace the male intuition. It's one of those things. It's like, my ex-husband and I could look at my stepsons and say, listen, I know you've done something. I haven't figured out what it is, so you might as well fess up now what you did, because if I figure it out, it's going to be twice worse on you. You have that thing back here in the back that tells you, something's up. That's it. Okay. Now, the goddess has 3 more aspects to her that most witches and Wiccans never work with. And they don't think of the goddess in these ways, okay? The first one is the warrior. Now, many of us have said, I'm the only one that can talk bad about my kids. You get up on my kids and I will take you out, because there is nothing more fierce than a mama, protecting their children. That's the warrior part of the goddess. They are the protectors, and they are capable of defending themselves and everyone that they love. Okay? I know that if my home is, in danger, and I feel a threat to my safety, the safety of my family, the safety of my animals, a threat to my home, I will protect it with whatever means I have necessary in the mundane and the magical world. Okay? And I embrace that part of my side wholeheartedly. And I guess that's why I lasted 31 years in a fire department. I had to be a warrior, okay, for a lot of my life, because I was DOD prior to that. So my entire adulthood has been spent in a male-dominated, career. So I had to be a warrior. I had to be tough. And that's what these goddesses encourage you to be. But I never lost sight of my femininity. I never, pushed that side of myself down. I embraced it. Okay. Now, one of the most commonly worked with warrior goddesses is Athena, the Greek goddess. And she is all about protection, victory, courage, and leadership. When you think about yourself as a mother, you are the leader of your kids. Okay. That's the typical, way you think about things. And her symbols are new clothing, olives, owls, and the oak. Okay. Now, another one that most women forget about, because you get so wrapped up in, taking care of the day-to-day, you forget to embrace the lover side of yourself. Now, lovers stand for ecstasy, sexual pleasure, beauty, and they're the source of inspiration, okay? Because, when you're in love, everything is just more alive. Food tastes better. Things smell sweeter. The wine is sweeter. Everything is better when you're in love. And you got to admit, having sex with someone that you love is so much more profound than just doing the act of sex with somebody you don't care that much for. Okay. But when you're in love and you bond on that kind of level, that is really, really powerful stuff and can be the source of very powerful magic. And, that's one of the advanced types of witchcraft and ritual is sex magic. And that is a wonderful way to embrace the lover goddess and God. So one of the most, the lover goddess is the force that brings people together. It is that attraction at that soul loving level, where you have it, where you have love and trust. Okay. And this is, not just, this is friends, this is family. You have friends that you just bond with in an instant. You feel that soul connection between the two of you. You may have never met. I've met people here, on YouTube, through chats and through hangouts, where I have just felt an instant connection to them, that was undeniable, and we bonded. And they are my sisters, and my brothers. And so when you look to the lover, think to never forget to tell those that you are the closest to and the people that you care about that you love them. Okay? That is the most important lesson of the lover. And of course, the first, you think of the goddess of love, and that's Aphrodite, right? The Greek goddess of love. And she is all about love and romance and passion and sexuality and luck and beauty and pleasure and fertility. And her symbols are rose, copper, turquoise, and sandalwood. Okay? Now, the one that scares people the most is the dark goddess. Okay? Now, for every light, there must be a dark. Okay? We all have that light, bright, good side of ourselves, but we have emotions that are from the dark side. They're from our shadow self. They are part of us. It's normal. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Embrace it. Bright goddesses, think of them as your conscious mind, fertility, pleasure, comfort, sexual awareness, and action. Okay? Dark goddesses are our unconscious mind, our intuition, their pain, their discomfort. When you have kids, you go through a lot of pain and discomfort, not only through, pregnancy and birth, but your kids cause you pain just as you caused your parents pain as you lived your life. And they are so misunderstood because they're feared, and they're feared because they're misunderstood. Now, one of the most powerful dark goddesses that I ever worked with was the goddess Kali. And, she is that Hindu goddess that's blue. She has her blood dripping from her mouth. She's got all these various arms. She's standing over a slain foe. She is the protector. She is the bringer of justice. She sheds light on the truth. She is the goddess of death and destruction, of birth and rebirth, of light and dark, and freedom and independence. And I turned to her with one of the most powerful spells I ever wrote in my life. And it was to protect a child whose father was loading her up in the car when she was a toddler and going to go buy drugs, specifically heroin, with her in the car. And within 6 months of me doing the spell with the goddess Kali, and I didn't direct it straight at her father. I said, bring light to anyone that goes to harm this child, and have them be brought to swift justice as you see fit. I'm not saying I want so-and-so taken down. I want this done. I want this done. But I left it up to the goddess Kali. And you know what? Her father was arrested for DUI 3 more times. He ended up with a total of 5 DUIs. And when it happened out in another county and not in the city limits where he normally would go, that old country judge lowered the boom on him, and he spent 22 months in a state prison because of his actions. But conversely, the child's mother, who liked to drink, got arrested for a DUI. So she brought swift justice to them both because they were endangering that child. She brought justice and shed light on the wrongdoing of people. But it was to bring justice to protect a child, not to be mean, but to protect a child who could not protect herself. She was 3 years old, literally a toddler. Okay? So you cannot, think that everything is what I call airy-fairy when it comes to Wicca and witchcraft. There are so many dimensions to it, okay? Now, the god is the same. You know how the goddess rules the night, the god rules the day and the year, okay? He is the male essence of the divine. He is the spark that gets life moving, okay? He is the thing that plants the seed, literally, that makes that seed fertile and gets it to grow, okay? He is everywhere, and he is part of us, and we are part of him. He's, the fire keeping us warm. He's a group of men defending their homes, defending their country, and he is the wise man. And he is represented by, like the goddess, 3 main archetypes that most people are familiar with, and that is the wild one, the father, and the sage. Okay? And through those aspects, he represents birth, life, death, and rebirth. Okay? That is what the whole wheel of the year is about, and we'll get into that next week for the Esbats and the Sabbats. Okay? So these are the mysteries of masculinity. And for women, you don't really think about having a masculine side to yourself, but you do. He encourages you to learn from your mistakes, to live in harmony with the nature around us. Don't fight nature. Live with it in harmony. And don't be afraid of physically defending yourself or your home. You have to tap into that masculine side to do that, okay? Now, for men, he wants you to learn to behave in a noble manner, to treat women with respect and honor, treat your partner with respect and honor. If they complete you, treat that person with respect and honor. And to learn to accept things that you cannot control. Because men typically, and I'm going to say this, like we think of men as being the head of the family, of being in control of things. Where, in the relationship that I'm in, and in my previous marriage, it was, pretty well balanced, because I wouldn't just, roll over and literally put all of the heavy, with my stepsons, I was the heavy. I was the disciplinarian. My ex-husband wasn't. I was. So, you find a balance as a couple, as partners, in that dynamic, okay? And he encourages men to not think that they have to be in control all the time. The most long-lasting and sustainable relationships are those of give and take on both sides, okay? So, in the wild one, like the maiden, he represents innocence. And you think about young boys, okay? They are just so full of piss and vinegar, and they have unboundless energy, and they are just wide-eyed and open. and innocent and just in awe of everything. I mean, little boys can play with worms and be perfectly happy, and, you know, they have the appreciation for some of the most small things in life. Like I said, playing with that worm, little boys can find fascination in that. Well, heck, I did too when I was a little girl. But they haven't come into manhood yet. Okay, so think about your kids. You know, little boys out there playing softball. I mean, you know, baseball, or, you know, football, soccer, whatever. And when they're first learning, and the coach is trying to corral all that chaotic energy, you know, because the little boys are just, you know, that chaotic kind of, ah! That's what the wild one is all about. And they are free and uninhibited, okay? But they want you to stop and smell the roses and appreciate everything, everything. So one of the ones that I work with is Apollo. And he's all about healing in the arts. And his symbols are the lyre, the bow, and the arrow. And the next aspect of the god is the father, okay? And that is your typical, the father is the provider, he's the protector, he is the lord of his realm, he's the lord of the beasts. You know, he's about, like I say, hot monkey sex, okay? And it's that really hot, fiery passion, you know, that you feel. And he is there in growing crops and animals of the forest. He is respected, but he's fully aware of that power. And he knows when to use it, and he knows when to hold back. And they are the seed in which all life begins, okay? They are the fertilization of that seed. They are the sun that causes that seed to sprout and to grow and to bear fruit itself, okay? The Father God also teaches us to trust our instincts and to take precaution or action, okay? Now, one of the ones that I work with the most is Cernunnos, and that's a Celtic god. He is like your universal father type, okay? And his symbols are are horns, you know, antlers, and animals, okay? Now, the next one is the sage. And think of the sage as your grandfather, okay? He's old and wise from experience, but yet he reminds you of your own mortality. And he's a teacher. He's a wise old man. He helps guide younger ones, teaches them the ropes, teaches them how to be, you know, a man. But yet he also teaches you that death has to happen so that life can live, okay? You think about the cycle of growing season, right? It starts out with the seed, it grows, it bears fruit, we pick that fruit, then in the wintertime, that crop dies off after it's bared fruit, goes to seed, so that you have seed for the next cycle of the harvest, right? For the next year. And then it dies and goes fallow for the winter, to then come back again the following spring to bear fruit to feed you. Okay? Think about that. So the sage wants you to take delight in everything that you have learned in life, and then encourages you to teach those who are wishing to learn. That's one of the things that I'm embracing right now. I want to teach people who want to learn about Wicca and witchcraft, okay? I'm embracing that part of my life. Now, one of the ones that I think of is Horus the Elder, and that's Egyptian. And he represents light and fertility. And his symbols are horse, bear, and dragon's blood. And I mean like the resin dragon's blood, not like a physical blood from a dragon. Okay. Now, like the goddess, the god has 3 additional archetypes associated with him. And we have to remember and honor these aspects as well as the 3 primary that are associated with him. And the first one is the protector. And protectors defend those in need, those who cannot defend themselves. And especially the protector god protects their loyal followers. Okay? They are the voice of justice when others treat us unfairly. And he reminds us to help those in need, to speak out for those who are weaker than we are. Okay? And when you think of it that way, the protector's not that scary. Because it can be something as easy as saying, hey, knock it off, you big bully. Okay? Think of that. You know, when someone can't speak up for themselves, or being an advocate for someone else. You know, I had to be a medical advocate for my mother. I had to be a medical advocate for my sister. I had to make the hard decisions when it came time. And I had to embrace that part of my life. So, one that you can think of is the god Mars, the Roman god Mars. He's the god of farming, war, and springtime. And his symbols are the wolf, oak, and woodpeckers. Okay. Now, like the goddess, there is a lover aspect of God. You know, they show us, lover gods show us to be proud of our sexuality in whatever form it comes in, to embrace sexual intimacy with a partner that you connect with on a very deep level, awakens your body, your soul, your mind. Okay. They also encourage you to tap into that animalistic side. You know, when I said that hot monkey sex, this is what I'm talking about. You have an animalistic side. Embrace it and be passionate. Okay? Just because I'm over 50 doesn't mean that I'm celibate, and it doesn't mean that I no longer can swing from a chandelier, although the chandelier needs to be reinforced and I can't stay up there that long anymore. But I can still give it a go. And one that you think of in this aspect is Eros, the Greek god. And he is the god of love, affection, and sexual attraction. Okay? And his symbols are the bow and the arrow. Now, like the goddess, the god has a dark aspect to it. And he's represented by the dying sun on Samhain. Okay? This is the time when he's nearing the end of his life cycle. And it's the time in which he's known as the Lord of Mysteries. Okay? He's been the protector. He's been the warrior. And in his death, he is sometimes portrayed as the Grim Reaper with the scythe. But death is a part of our life. It can't be viewed with fear, okay? And think of Odin, okay, the Nordic god. He is all about wisdom, healing, death, loyalty, the gallows, okay? Making that judgment and sending someone to the gallows. Knowledge, battle, you know, he's scarred from, you know, being in battles and protecting in wars. Sorcery, poetry, frenzy, and the runic alphabet, okay? And his symbols are the blue cloak with a floppy hat, the raven, the wolf, and the eagle. Now, I did it, the goddess and the god first, because they are part of what we call the divine. That's what I refer to when I'm referring to the divine. And that is the all, the everything. It's where we are created. It's where we return in our final incarnation into this realm. Okay? Now, and the symbol, the yin yang symbol, is representative of the two aspects of the divine. Okay? The yin is black and dark and passive, encompassing and feminine. The yang is the white, the light. It's forceful, it's penetrating, and it's masculine. Okay? The yin is the bowl, and the yang is the force, the water that pours into the bowl. Okay? Yin is the loving mother, yang is the father. Okay? Yin is her strength, allows her to remain open, accepting, and allowing. Yang is the spark that ignites the fire, the initial impulse to do something, and gets us to take action. Yin represents the subconscious mind and the moon, and yang represents the conscious mind and the sun. Yin is the goddess, yang is the god. Okay? Now, if you look at the yin yang symbol, it's in perfect balance. Okay? White and black, yin and yang. Okay? And it is representative of the goddess and the god. They are in balance, and neither is more important than the other. So you think of them as the all, the everything, because both the god and the goddess are in everything. They are part of us. We are a part of them. We are a part of the divine, of the all. We are all connected to one another. We are connected to our surroundings. I'm connected to my animals. I am connected to my better half. We're all one part of the all. Okay? Now, part of what I want you to study is to really read the charge of the goddess, the charge of the god, the charge of the dark goddess, and the charge of the dark god. Because those poems, I'm going to call them that, will really give you a wonderful understanding of why there is that balance of light and dark, why there is the balance of life, death, and rebirth, okay? And the way that we are connected to one another, and that one cannot exist without the other. They're intertwined and interdependent on one another, okay? You can't just have the feminine without the male, okay? So, with that, that is it for what our beliefs are on the god and the goddess and the different aspects. Next week will be about the Esbats and the Sabbats. Now, the Esbats honor the goddess and the moon, are attuned to the goddess and the moon. And the Esbats, the Sabbats are honoring the god and the wheel of the year, okay? The cycle of the sun, okay? So with that, everyone, I hope you are well. I am sorry it took me so long to get this episode up. Been a little ill the last few weeks. Been a lot ill the last few weeks, but I am on the mend. I thank everybody for sending out all those lovely messages to me on Twitter and in my DMs and everything. I love every one of you for thinking of me and for saying the prayers and sending healing my way, because it definitely helped. And I'm on the mend, and I will be back to my full self here shortly, I hope. You know, until we meet again, merry we did meet, merry we will part, until we merry meet again. Be well and go in love and light, everyone. Bye.